This is our next differentiation rule in section 3.3. This one is called the quotient rule. And here is the statement for this rule. As you might suspect, we are going to be taking the derivative of a quotient, which is division of two functions. So we're taking the derivative with respect to x in this case, d dx, of f of x over g of x. So that right there is our quotient. And leave yourself some space for this. This is the result of that derivative. You can't just take the derivative of the top and the bottom and then divide those. That is not how it works. It's a lot more complicated than that, unfortunately, I suppose. But here is the rule. You're going to take g of x times the derivative of f of x minus f of x times the derivative of g of x, and then divide all of that by g of x squared. Okay, that's kind of a hairy expression there to work with. We are actually not even going to do the proof of this one from scratch here, but it is in your textbook or your e-text on page 120. Okay, so you can search for that in the e-text if you'd like. Really, this uses a very similar trick to the product rule proof that we looked at. Okay, uses similar tricks to product rule, because back in the product rule we had that sneaky trick in the proof where we had to add and subtract a certain term. The quotient rule proof has kind of a similar thing going for it. But this quotient rule, you are going to need to memorize this expression right here. And there are some different ways to do this. One of the most common ones that I've heard is this sentence right here. Okay, it goes low d high minus high d low all over, let me write all over low squared. Okay, so that sentence right there has helped a lot of people memorize the quotient rule. It's kind of a little catchy saying. You can even come up with some way to abbreviate it for yourself, like maybe low d high minus high d low over low squared or something like that. But however you want to memorize this is good. Just come up with some way. For this low d high thing, what they're doing here is we're abandoning the f of x and g of x, okay, and just calling this the low function because it's lower physically on the page, and then calling f of x the high function because it's higher on the page, higher up in the quotient, okay? So when we do that, we can say low d high, okay, minus high d low all over low squared. And I know that got a little scribbly there, but that is how you would read that statement along with this quotient rule statement. So low d high minus high d low over low squared. And, you know, again, if that doesn't jam with you, then Google this. There are other ways, I'm sure, to memorize the quotient rule. the way I memorized it back in the day, actually, I didn't even learn this one, the low D high thing. I memorized this as the bottom function times derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. You can see how efficient this was. Minus top times derivative of the bottom over the bottom function squared. Okay, because yeah, that is just somehow what stuck for me, and nobody was saying this low-D high, high-D low thing. So really, whatever it takes for you, memorize this in one way or another. That's the overall idea.